Hi, this is Harmonie Krieger from Life with Harmony and Netflix's Jewish Matchmaking, and you're listening to Fascination Street Podcast.
Yeah, AV in your ears. That's Ambush V giving you this audio visual down the most interesting street in the world with my boy Steve. Fascination Street, you already know. Let's get it when you whip in the Fascination Street. What do you?
Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is part of my month-long tribute to the Netflix series Jewish Matchmaking. This episode is with one of the cast members, Harmonie Krieger. And in this episode, we get to know Harmonie's backstory. We talk about where she was born and raised. We also talk about Harmonie's company, Pop Your Shop. It's a really cool pop-up marketing service. And then we talk about her upcoming podcast called Life with Harmony. It is going to be a podcast. It is going to be a platform. It is going to be a community of like-minded individuals looking to increase their potential through spirituality, self-improvement, all the things. We do talk a little bit about microdosing mushrooms and some of the benefits that may have for people who might be into that. We're not doctors here, so neither one of us are saying that's a thing that you should do. But we do talk a little bit about some of the things that could possibly come out of a microdosing experience. And then finally, we talk about her time on the Netflix series Jewish Matchmaking. We talk about what she wanted to get out of it, why she did the show, how she thinks she came off, and a little bit about her experience on the show. It was a lot of fun to watch the show, and it has been so much fun to talk to all of these individuals from the show. And this is my conversation with the host of Life with Harmony podcast and cast member from the Netflix TV series Jewish Matchmaking, Harmonie Krieger.
Prepare to be fascinated. Prepare to be fascinated. Prepare to be fascinated.
Welcome to Fascination Street Podcast, Harmonie Krieger. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I cannot complain.
Good.
We're going to talk about all kinds of crazy stuff. I think I told you off mic, but first, what I like to do is I like to start from the beginning. It helps the listener understand how the guests got from where they were to where they are. So where were you born and raised? Where'd you grow up?
Oh, I love that. I was born in New York City, born and raised New York girl. And then my parents moved to Westchester. So like half city, half suburbs. And then I went to college at Syracuse University, so upstate New York. And then right after college, I moved into the city, back into the craziness, and then to LA. I've been there now for 18 years. So let's not do the math and do my age, but there, there we are.
Now, we're going to talk about how you got from New York to LA in just a little bit. But first, I want to dig a little deeper on your growing up. I understand that you went from babysitter to party planner before you were even a teenager. Is that true?
That is very true. Well, I always had a love for bringing people joy and just making them smile, and had a connection to kids because I feel like I've always been a kid my whole life. So even when I was a young kid, even now as an adult, I kind of bring like that fun play back into my own life. So I think what was the natural organic trajectory of career was that when I was babysitting for these kids, their moms would ask me to plan their birthday parties. And so I just felt like, oh, I already know the child so well. I know what they like. This is such a no-brainer for me. And to watch all of their friends enjoy the experience that I created, I just knew that was a gift. And I had to lead with that for the rest of my life in whatever capacity. So yeah, like I literally think I became an event planner before. Yeah, I think it was about 11. I started babysitting when I was 11, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
This was a paid service, right? You got paid for this?
Let's see. Half was, half wasn't.
Nice.
I think, yeah. I mean, I guess they paid me for the babysitting, and they're like, let's see how you do with their birthday parties. And then I think from there, that's how I knew I was going to start being an event planner. I mean, I started in New York with really, I think, yeah, it wasn't really a big clientele, but I started to build it up. And then what I noticed was obviously to make the money, I wanted to start working with brands and different, in sectors and in the things that I loved to share with other people.
And what age were you when you decided that that was what you wanted to do? Work with brands in different sectors?
I think it was probably when I was in college. The thing about it is I always loved talking about the things I love to other people. So if I can create an event where people can like see and touch it, experience it, that was sort of when the light bulb went off. So I would say, yeah, I was about 20, something in that. But I think it started way before that, to be honest.
Yeah, you had to at least be dipping your toes into it before you settled on that as a career path. What I love to ask my guests is, particularly, when they find success in whatever field, you're very successful at planning parties and working with brands and that sort of thing. What made you think you could? Where did you get the belief in yourself? Because if I also understand, your number one piece of advice that you give to other people is to believe in yourself. So where did you get that belief in yourself, and how do you think other people can be inspired to find it within?
I love that question so much. Sometimes I have to tell myself that every day. It definitely came from my mom. And as a little girl, she would always tell me to do whatever made me happy. And I think that I knew like my gift. I think we know our gift very early on in our lives, and we don't know how to truly bring it up and out. So we have to do a lot of things in order to see how we can present that to the world. But first, we have to feel like we believe in our own gift and our own ability in order to serve that outward. So my mom would always just bring me with her, first of all, wherever she went. And I think by me watching her live hers, it helped me bring mine out. And we're very similar in that sense, where everybody loved her and they received her positivity and her joy. And she just made everyone feel so happy. And I innately had that in me, and at first I think I resisted it, by the way, because I think this is a big thing that happens as well, is that we resist in the beginning the thing we know we're supposed to do because we don't believe we actually will be good at it. And we also don't know how other people will receive it. So it's hard to put yourself out there in that sense. So I think for me, I just jumped in. And it's funny because as I was an event planner, I also was simultaneously wanting to be a TV host. So very being like, forward facing, but I didn't know how to get there either. So I was doing both to try and see where I would land, but they actually go so much along the same path. Because as an event planner, you're showcasing all of the things you love, but as a host, you're speaking it. So I had to learn how to blend them in a way. And that was very powerful for me because you had to really believe in who you are and your ability in order to do something like that. So I thank my mom, because I will tell you, my other parent, my lovely dad, I do love him dearly, but I do talk about this. He's very logical, but in the sense of like, that might not be a good career path. I don't know how you're going to make money from that. And he'd always give me the other side, where my mom would always be like, oh no, you can do whatever you want. And I think it's powerful to have a support team behind you. And that is something that I've always had. And I genuinely attribute that to my success. As much as I have a gift, I think it takes a really powerful support system in order for you to live it.
Love it. Do you have a support system in your friend circle as well?
Yes, they're like my sisters, all of them. It's like a little sorority. And so it's funny because I was the social, I think about this often. And thank you for bringing up all these like old memories too, because it does take me back to sometimes we forget how we got there, right? So I was the social of my sorority, and I would always get like the girls to, do something that was out of their comfort zone. And that would be to like plan a party with a fraternity that they were really not into. They're like, they only wanted to like hang out with the ones that they wanted to. And we had to get out of our comfort zone and do something different. So I feel that really kind of blends into what I do now with my friends. And I'm really the planner, and I kind of like organize what we're going to do. But they are the most incredible women. And I'm so grateful and lucky to have a circle like this, because not many people have this. And I have cultivated it for sure over the last 15 years. And all of them I met in a different way, but they're all like a 15 to 16 year friendship, which
Oh,
is
wow.
very rare for women. They're a little catty, they do that, but we support each other, we lift each other up, and we always cheer each other on in our endeavors in every way. And that to me has also allowed me sort of at this age, because you believe in yourself to a point, but then you're like, okay, you have to kind of reinvent yourself in each decade. And so I think that they really do push me a little bit, because sometimes I just get too comfortable myself, and they're like, Harmonie, remember who you are. You could do anything. And I was like, that's right.
Yeah, like Mufasa said, remember who you are.
Exactly. I love that.
We are going to jump around a little bit. Did you used to work for KTLA? Am I making that up?
Yeah, I do. Well, I actually still do segments for them. So I do lifestyle segments where, again, it's like I showcase, brands and things that I love, whether that be seasonal or stuff for parties. I did like an Amazon Prime Day where I showed my favorite products. So yeah, that lights me up because again, it's blending like my hosting background, with the things that I love. So that's one of my favorite things to do. And I just did it for Jewish matchmaking. I just went on KTLA and talked about my own dating life, which I've never done on TV.
Oh, wow. That must have been quite a departure from, usually you're going on and you're talking about cool things and cool pop-ups to just be vulnerable.
That was the hardest part because obviously I was vulnerable on the show, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But going from that to like live news where you're putting it out there again, it's a practice of vulnerability that I think has made me stronger. That's led me to the next medium, which we will talk about, right? Which is the Life with Harmonie. And I think it was all of these pieces in one's life think there's no accidents in the universe. Like all of the things you do, whether you feel like you've succeeded or failed, because I really truly feel there's no failure. I think everything that you think is a failure is a piece of your journey. And all of that leads to where you are, exactly where you should be. And I think that it just is a matter of timing, which I never realized, by the way, when I was younger. And my dad would always say, timing in life is everything. And I would be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Like, what does that even mean, Dad?
Exactly. As tough as he was, the advice that he gave me was so spot on. And now I really do appreciate a lot of that because I do feel like vulnerably saying, I think I waited a lot of years and sat on a lot of projects that I wanted to start because I thought I had all the time in the world.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The older we get, the less time we're always like, I got plenty of time. I'll do that. I'll start this. I'll start that. And then all of a sudden 20 years goes by and you're like, holy heck.
Exactly.
I want to talk about this thing. It is called Pop Your Shop. First, tell everybody what it is. And then I'm so fascinated about how you started it and why. So first of all, what is Pop Your Shop?
So Pop Your Shop, it's a boutique marketing agency where we work with brands and we create pop-up shops or events, launch events, because pop-up is obviously a loose term in today's world. It can mean anything, just like comes up for a weekend, a day, a month, and it creates buzz around a new product. And obviously the intention is to create buzz and then to increase revenue sales. So I work with brands in fashion, beauty, wellness, and tech. And we basically, if they have a new product or if there's something that they want to create buzz around, we create either a pop-up shop or event, like I said, but everything could be either from A to Z, where we create the idea, we execute it, we plan it out, concept it, or we do a la carte because some brands already have the idea. And then we find a location, we create an environment to obviously implement whatever strategy they want. So it really like runs the gamut, but I love working with smaller niche brands because they've got just such an excitement of how they want to present their ideas to the world. And as you know, like brick and mortar is sort of out right now, right? Because everything that we buy is online. So we also have to create that online presence as well. So the business has shifted a little bit.
I heard somebody say a couple of years ago that pretty soon the only things you're going to be able to buy in a brick and mortar store are actual bricks and actual mortar.
I love that. That is hilarious. And you know what? That's true. I mean, look, everything. It's just crazy that everything's online. I mean, look, the accessibility is amazing. But for me, there's something about going in and touching something and seeing it and really experiencing it in a way that you can't when you just get an Amazon package delivered to your house. So I do respect and understand both, but I'm telling you that people are still craving an in-person experience, because we don't have a lot of that. Look at with what happened with the pandemic. So not only the connection to the product, but the connection to themselves of experiencing what it's like to go out into the world again and shop, or just to window browse.
Indeed. As far as I can remember, I think I've only ever been to one pop-up. It was either right before COVID or right after, when things were just barely starting to open back up from COVID. Mm-hmm. And it was in Austin. And my daughter, who was years old at the time, and there was a pop-up in Austin for a makeup company called Glossier.
Oh, love them.
So there was a pop-up, and I was like, I don't even know what that means, but sure, let's go. And it was the wildest thing. It was just like, it seemed like they rented a space for, I don't know, a week maybe.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of threw a party and were, giving stuff away and selling stuff. And it was just like, it was the coolest thing. Like, I'm sure that place is infested with rodents now because it's not their place. They just needed it for a week or whatever. And
yeah. By the way, Glossier, for anyone that doesn't know, it's like one of the biggest brands. So they can afford to do a monstrosity of a pop-up. So what people don't understand is how expensive and how much time it takes to actually create that 1 week. So for a lot of brands, it's not worth it to spend all that money who don't have a lot of money for a brand like that of such high volume, like a Skims, with Kim Kardashian. I mean, I can't even tell you what they would spend on their pop-up. I mean, I wish I had that business, but it's really expensive and it's really time consuming to create an experience that's only up for a week, because you're also, some pop-ups, their mission, as they know, is to create the buzz and not just sales, because you cannot guarantee sales with that. But with a brand like Glossier, they know if there's a pop-up, they're going to sell out. So that's kind of the little bit of a tricky part with smaller brands doing them, because they expect higher sales, yet they're really just getting their name out like anything else, right? So it could be either a marketing write-off or something where they feel that it's going to elevate their brand. And that's what I try to do. We also bring on influencers or somebody to host the pop-up, because that creates a lot of foot traffic and social buzz when somebody of significance is representing their brand.
So it's like when I'm going to have a pop-up next week for my podcast, and I'm going to bring in Paris Hilton to DJ.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be like
and then your podcast is going to go from what I don't know how many downloads you have. I'm sure it's a lot, but it's going to go up to like a gazillion, right? Because she's DJing your pop-up. Let's get her together. When I launch mine, I need something like that too. Maybe we could do a duo.
We'll do it. I'm coming after you, Joe Rogan, and your audience.
Let's go, Joe Rogan. By the way, fun fact, Steve, I don't think you know this. I was on Fear Factor.
Oh my God, did you have to eat?
Oh, I did not get that far, and I do not advise Google that. Do not.
So you were on the show, huh?
I was on the show before I moved to LA. By the way, that was like my first time to LA. I think it was 2002.
Wow.
And when I got there, I was like, oh my God, I have got to move here. I just fell in love with it right away. New Yorkers are different. They either love it or hate it. That's how it is. But I saw Joe Rogan about I think it was like 3 years ago. It was before the pandemic, at a comedy show, because he was doing one with Sebastian Maniscalco. And my friend Stephanie and I went backstage, and he does not invite, fans to come back. So Stephanie just like snuck back there because she loves comedians. And I saw him. I'm like, I got to tell him. Do I tell him? He's not going to remember me, but who cares? So I'm like, Joe, I was on season 2. He's like, oh my God, I think I remember you. I may not remember your episode, but I think I remember you, because my name, right, is so unique. And I said, well, I'm about to start a podcast. And by the way, that was 3 years ago. Hence, this is how long, again, timing. Okay, back to the full circle. But this is a cool story. So I have to tell you what he said to me. He was like, good for you. You go after it. You start that thing. It's going to be so huge. You don't even know until you start what you're about to get into. Like, go for it. He was just so humble. I mean, this is before the Spotify deal, but like, he was like a cheerleader. And I just respected that. You know, to him, I'm obviously like a contestant, whatever, but I really loved and respected him. So I don't know. That was just a cool moment when other people can also see your light and you may not have the belief in yourself because it's something new and scary.
Now he lives in Austin, I'm sure everybody knows, which is it's only like an hour and a half from where I am. But I know some people who do some work for him on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
And I've talked to them multiple times about it, and they have never, ever, ever had a bad experience with that man. He is the nicest, most generous. He gives everybody tips, but also he gives everybody compliments.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just like very respectful and very appreciative of. So maybe the money hasn't changed him all that much.
I mean, he's super humble. He's from the East Coast. You know, he's just a good guy and humble beginnings, even though he had such success so young, but still very humble beginnings. And I just really do appreciate his candor. So I hope to obviously, like yourself, you know, bring that to the podcasting world. And I think it's just being as genuine as you can and not trying to be something you're not.
Sure. Back to Pop Your Shop.
Mm-hmm.
Pop-ups is a very in-person business.
Yeah.
And then the world shut down.
And then my business shut down.
So how did that affect your business?
The business shut down. You know what was interesting? I actually was ready to pivot, I think, at that point. So for me, it gave me really, obviously, the financial was a thing, right? Because that's how I made my money. And I think a lot of the small business, you know, loans that came through during that time it was for people, you know, like myself, who had a business that depends on people showing up. I was looking into shifting to online and doing virtual events. It just isn't my thing. It really wasn't. Like, I connect so much with being with people and experiences that I felt that was not genuine for me. So what happened was I just deep dove into personal development and just wanted to improve all the aspects that I thought would help me in every sector of my life, which is something I really wanted to work on. That because I was in the event business and I was going pop up to pop up, event to event, I didn't feel like I was slowing down and taking the time to really truly step into the things that really would help me find a little bit more harmony in my own life, because I felt very unaligned. I felt very out of sorts. And I think everybody would understand when you're serving outward so many people, right? Because when you're doing an event, you're making sure everybody else is having a good time. And then when that event ends, though, it's like a wedding. There's like a void because you stopped the planning, everything's done. And you're like, what now? Oh, on to the next one. For me, that did not feel fulfilling at all, even though the brands loved what I did. I personally did not feel fulfilled. I went workshop after workshop, like online personal development, whatever I could get my juicy hands on. Some was business, some was wellness. I was the healthiest I ever was. You know, people drank during the pandemic. I didn't drink at all. I focused on my health. I really wanted to cultivate a better relationship with myself before going into my next mission in life, whatever that was.
So is it fair to say Pop Your Shop is gone? It's finito. It is done?
No, I still am doing launch events for brands for sure. Like, for me, it's when I feel passionate about something that I want to bring to market and I really believe in their strategy, I will absolutely do it. I have some private clients. We do some pop-up events in that sector. I love it. It just has to feel aligned to what I'm doing now. And since I'm about to dive into something new with the podcast and the platform and the community, there are going to be pop-ups that are going to be related to the new brands that are going to probably step into the sector that I'm in, which is the personal development, wellness, spirituality, relationships, all that good stuff. So I think the pop-ups are just going to take on a different, it's going to get a little makeover.
So it's going to be like the Shamrock Shake and the McRib, back for a limited time.
Yeah.
Every once in a while.
Exactly. For a limited time. I love that. Yep.
Now we're going to talk about life with harmony. Now, I have heard you speak in a few different interviews, and one of the things that you speak about is the word surrender. You do speak of it in the context of, letting go in order to actually push forward toward your goals. So I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about what that means, that version of surrender, and how it has helped you.
Love this so much. Thank you. Your questions are so beautiful.
I'm neat.
I love you. Here's the thing. I am a very controlled person, I think. And it's funny because the way I live my life is the opposite of control. So I'm very whimsical and dreamy, and I love life and I love to, explore and adventure. But internally, I'm a very controlled person. So in the event planning world, you can imagine every single aspect you are managing. You literally have to manage every part of that launch from A to Z, and you have to make sure it's done well. So I have that part of me that in business, but then the other part that wants to go out and fly. So it's a dance of who's going to win. It's right? It's like a polarity almost. And when I started to do a lot of this work, I realized that I was not surrendering to any part of the let free will be. Let the universe show you what's out there. It will support you. But you have to let go of your belief system a little bit. And I don't mean forget it. I mean the controlled patterns and conditioning that's ingrained in you since basically you're 7 years old. Let that go and just fly and see what comes your way. It's not like a manifestation thing for me where I'm like, oh my God, let me manifest more money and then money comes out of the tree, which by the way would be nice. But it's more of letting go of what you think and what you expect is going to happen in your life, because it's probably never going to happen. You can cultivate an idea of that. But when you do that, you are so controlled in your thinking that it can only look one way. So that's what was happening for me. It was this way or no way. And guess what happened? I didn't get any of it. So, I was like, I was going to be married at this age. I was going to have a baby at this age. And then none of that. So I think the surrender piece was what do you actually value? And what do you actually want in your life? And I think love was what kept coming up. And it wasn't just romantic love. It was just giving love out and receiving love back, which I think at the end of the day is what most people want. But that was in every sector: loving myself, my parents, my work, my potential partner, my dog, whoever that was. And I don't think I was leaning into that. So for me, back to the letting go piece and how it helped, the minute I started to relax, feel some harmony in my life, and find modalities that I think really helped. And everybody's different, but for me, it was a lot of different things I had to try, whether that's breath work, meditation, hiking. Everybody's got their thing. But I needed to get to the place of inner peace in order to surrender. Am I comfortable with myself? And it's really served me. And by the way, Steve, this is a practice every day. I have to surrender every day. This is not I surrendered 3 months ago and now my life is the opposite. This is every day I have to kind of take a beat. When I feel myself getting anxious, I'm also an anxious person. I like things to be now. That's the New Yorker in me. So what can you do to just breathe, take a moment and be you know what? I was anxious over there. That's okay. But how can I surrender into that moment and then grow from that and allow just something to come through? And it always does. The other thing I do want to offer that I learned that is so valuable: nothing is permanent, as we know. But to think that and to feel that are two different things. Because when you're feeling awful and you're feeling not enough, I promise you that 10 minutes later, the feeling is not going to be the same. No matter if you still feel a little bit of that, it's not going to be as intense as the moment that you felt it. So it's just knowing that emotions and also thoughts have to move through you. And that's the surrender piece. And I don't think I've ever been able to articulate it. So just thank you.
You are welcome. I said at the top of that, I'm neat, and that's why.
You are.
Is there a tip or something that you can, give the listeners? What if I know that I'm being anxious about something? How do I take myself out of it and say, okay, now take it easy? How do I put myself in that headspace to actually A, recognize it, and B, step away from it? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So I feel that every day. And I actually just had one of these an hour ago. I could tell you, I was thinking about something that made me a little bit anxious and I couldn't get out of it for a minute. And I think most of us feel like that. Sometimes we feel trapped by our thoughts, and that is human. It is human, and you're going to feel it. And it is real in the sense for you. Doesn't mean it's real in life. Okay. One tip that will never, ever steer you wrong. I mean, never,
Ever?
ever. You take 10 deep breaths. And I mean from the diaphragm. I don't mean, oh, it's like, but you like literally fire breath it out. And it could feel weird, but it is the most cathartic thing that you can actually do in the moment because it's getting you out of your head and into your body. So it's moving the energy, that negativity, that anxiousness. It actually is moving it through. So that's the first thing I'll say. And people do have trouble breathing. That's why I do suggest some breath work because we don't know how to breathe correctly. We're breathing from our esophagus, right? But we're not breathing from our diaphragm, which is, and you're releasing it. Another way is to, honestly, for people that don't know what to do, like me in the beginning, I would turn on a 5-minute insight timer on the app just to get my headspace out of my own thoughts and into something else. Could I meditate? No. I'm the worst meditator ever. I'm not kidding. And that's why it's a practice. But a 5-minute guided where you just like surrender to the thing and you're like, I don't even care if this makes me feel better, like times 100, but it will make you feel better in the moment. And then another third thing, call a friend. Not many people want to when they're feeling that moment, but I promise you that if you call somebody and ask for support, everything will change in the way that you present what you're feeling, and it will make you feel better by the time you get off. Now, obviously, make it somebody that you know is going to make you feel better, not someone that triggers you. But those are just 3 quick things. And wait, the most important, nature. Go outside for a walk. This is another one that no matter what happens, and I'm feeling that way, I take myself downstairs. I don't even want to go outside at the moment. And I take a walk around the block. I just breathe and everything shifts. Because the idea, again, is to be in motion, right? Not sit in the emotion, but be in motion. So those are my tips.
Check you out. Well, thank you for sharing those.
Hey, Streetwalkers. Here's a word from our sponsors.
Hey, Streetwalkers. This month, the month of August, I have a special treat for you. This whole month is going to be themed. That's right. This month is Jewish matchmaking theme. So I'm bringing you exclusive interviews with 3 members of the cast and the actual matchmaker herself, all from the Netflix TV show Jewish Matchmaking. Season 1 is out and available now. My wife and I enjoyed it so much that I reached out to all these people to see if I could get them on, and boom! They were all gracious and generous enough with their time to hang out and let us get to know all of them a little bit better. So pay attention. Every Monday this month, the month of August 2023, each week will be a cast member from the show, finishing up with the actual Jewish matchmaker herself, the host of the show. I'm not going to give any names. You can check it out. You can look for it. You can just wait. But you will enjoy every single one of these interviews, I promise. And tell a friend.
Let's get back into it.
Life with Harmonie. What is it?
Life with, I don't know yet. It's going to be a couple of things. I went on a self-discovery journey, as I told you. So this is actually a podcast and a platform. It's going to be a community. We're also going to do live events from the things that I speak about on the podcast with different experts and modalities that I think were so helpful for me that I know would help others. But it will start firstly as a podcast. And I'm going to be doing some solo casts on topics that I had true breakthroughs in. And it will range from relationships, health and wellness, spirituality, career, entrepreneurship, and anything else under the sun that people want. Parenting, even though I'm not a parent, I have all my best friends, so many are parents, and giving people an arsenal of tools to feel unstuck, which was what you just asked me in those moments, and help them navigate the areas in their life where they need more harmony. And the reason that I'm starting this is because I am the listener. It's me. So that's how I know it's going to work, because I'm the seeker. I am not the expert. So I am gathering all of the information that I've already learned, but also going on the journey with the listeners as we dive into other modalities or experts or practitioners, whoever that may be. And also topics that I've just have popped up in my own life in the last few months since doing this show. So many breakthroughs that when I do share things on Instagram or whatever that may be, I cannot tell you how many women, especially, but men too, are like, me too. This is the way I feel. Thank you for sharing, because that is a part of my own story. And as you know, as a podcaster, the more you do this, the more you impact. If I'm helping one person, I've done my job.
Nice.
And then that will obviously go into a little bit of the products and fun things that I feel like have brought me more harmony. And then that will turn into some retreats and some events and workshops that we can bring guests that we've spoken to on the podcast in real life. So I don't know what that part's going to look like, but guess what? Surrendering to it.
I love it. You should do a retreat that is a little bit different from all the other retreats, and you should call it a retreat from retreats. So nobody knows what to expect.
I love that. Because there is a connotation, right? When you hear the word retreat.
There is. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're not going to go to, a monastery, but I mean, all these wellness retreats obviously have an underlying message, which is we all need to take a step back from our everyday. So I don't know what this is going to look like, but I'm excited to find out. I probably will do little pop-ups of workshops and little things just to test out what people are attracted to.
Sure. This is going to sound like a weird question, but what's your mission with this project? What's your goal?
Well, my mission has been clear since the beginning. My mission is to help as many humans as I possibly can feel like they are worthy of all the things that they've ever desired in their life, and that not doing it perfect is perfection for them. I want them to have more inner peace in their everyday while bringing more joy and play into their every day, because that to me is the piece that nobody talks about. Everyone says, okay, bring joy. How do you do that? How are you bringing play into your life every day? I want to show them how. My mantra, even from the show, was living forever young. And I really feel like I embody that. And a lot of people I know with responsibilities and kids and all of that, there's no time for play. But that's the mission of this podcast, is to make time for yourself, so you can actually implement that in your day. And I don't want it to be another book or podcast that people read and they're like, okay, great, that was a great episode. I want there to be a takeaway that they have to take inspired action.
Love it. Again, weird question. Who's it for?
I think it's for everyone. I think it's for me and everyone else. I really do. Now, I started with women. It was only going to be for women, by the way. I pivoted because I'm the woman, right? So I thought, okay, this is for women. I'm going to be talking about also, fertility and things that men are not involved in, but yet they are, because if they're with a woman, right, that is going through a challenge, they need to be checked into that. But it's going to be for both. I would say the focus will be for women, but I'm also going to do a whole sector for men, for men's work. And that, I don't know what that looks like. It's either once a month, twice a month, whatever, but I want to do some men's work where I bring some really cool people on for the men.
Nice.
And it's for me. And I think at the end of the day, if you're not doing it for yourself, and people will say that's selfish, if you're not doing it for yourself, you cannot help other people. Because my most amazing breakthroughs are the breakthroughs that when I leave myself a voice note at night and I'm like, holy crap, I just literally worked through that on my own. I've got to share that because I know that 25 other people had the exact same thought I just did, and I got to break through it. That's why I say you got to serve your cup first.
It's like, I think Mahatma Gandhi said, right? Be the change you want to see in the world, right? I think that was him.
Yes.
Again, that's Life with Harmony. It hasn't officially launched yet, or has it?
No, it's going to launch in August. So it was supposed to launch in June, but since Netflix and all of the Jewish matchmaking stuff, it was like a little aggressive, even though I wanted to. I think I had a little bit of a okay, simultaneously this is going to work, but as you know, it takes a lot to put something into something that you are going to launch that you feel super passionate about. And I also wanted to be present for what was happening with the show. So it's going to launch in August. I just did about 2 or 3 episodes already. So I already have some of that ready to go. I'm going to have you on. Let me ask you, what's been the greatest gift since you've started yours that you felt?
The friendships that have come from this. As we're speaking, this is, I think, my 375th episode or something like that. And out of that 375 episodes, I have probably made 60 friends.
Wow.
And some of these are friends that are super famous. Some of them are not. Some of them are friends that, have invited me to birthday parties across the country that I have gone to and gotten to hang out and meet people and things. And some of them are just people that I talk to every day and we support each other. And it's really just the friendships that have come from this whole thing. I never in my wildest imagination would have guessed that would happen. But I've met some of the greatest people. It's been so amazing.
Oh my God, that warms my heart. I love that. It's the power of connection. You truly don't know until you know.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was so scared to start it because who's going to listen? That's how I felt. Who's going to listen? Who am I to share my story, or who am I to give advice? I remember, I'll never forget, a mentor was like, who are you not to? You're doing a disservice to the world, whether it's one person, 1,000, 20, doesn't really matter. It's that you are serving your gift.
Selfish if you don't.
Selfish if you don't. See, love that.
You mentioned a while back, not today, but I heard an interview where you talked about your own inner battle between heart, soul, and mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's probably something that maybe not just you might struggle with. What do you do about that?
So that's pretty much the mission of the podcast.
All right. Well, then we're not going to spoiler alert it here. Go listen to the show and find out, guys. What's the matter with you?
Well, let's just say this. I'm an overthinker. So my head was leading the entire way, always. I will say this, but yet, and everyone has a version of this. I work out and I teach workouts, and I'm so in my body, but my head and my body and soul were not connected, like not aligned. They were acting as separate beings. So the whole idea of finding harmony in your life is to connect all of it, right? And then leading your world from your soul and your heart, not so much your head, where we overanalyze and think about everything and anything. And probably half the stuff that we think about and the perceptions that we have are not really true.
Agreed. You mentioned that you work out. Am I making this up, or a million years ago when you first got to Los Angeles, did you teach a workout with drumsticks?
I did, and I still do.
What does that even mean?
It's called Pound, and you use these amazing lightly weighted drumsticks. It's a full body cardio workout that also, funny enough, the idea is that the rhythm of the music and the sticks and the flow connect your mind, body, and soul. And I was just like, oh my God, like leading with, I have to do the right moves. I was all in my head, but it's incredible. It literally, truly gets you out of here and into your body, because the flow of music, as you know, the beauty of music is that you really just let your body take over. Whatever happens, happens. So throw in a couple of drumsticks. They're actually called ripsticks, but they're lightly weighted, and you're kind of a rock star. That's the whole idea. Your inner rock star is meant to come out in this workout. So it's a mix of like standing tracks and sitting tracks. It's legs, it's abs, it's arms, it's everything. It's intense as hell, by the way.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a fat drummer? Rarely, but still, come on now.
And here's the thing, you don't have to be coordinated to do it because the music allows you to just kind of like flow to the beat. That's the beauty of it. So it's for everybody. 45 minutes, but intense and really good music that truly, takes you on a journey.
Well, like Gloria Estefan in the Miami Sound Machine said back in the 80s, the rhythm is going to get you.
I love it. And I love her. So
everybody loves her. You touched on it a little bit on the show, but tell me about microdosing with mushrooms. What?
What? First of all, by the way, well, you're near Austin. Austin, I feel like, is like the capital of microdosing. Not even microdosing, just mushrooms in general.
Yeah, they macrodose.
Yeah, they macrodose, right. Another thing that changed my life over, I would say, the last year significantly was being open to something that shifted the neural pathways of the way you thought about things. Because again, back to the conditioning and the way we're taught as kids, I saw one way. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's got to be other ways to see this. That's how I felt when I wasn't like getting past the thought. And someone suggested to me, like, you should really try mushrooms. And I've never tried mushrooms in my whole life, by the way. That wasn't my go-to. I mean, I drank, which was horrible. That's poison. But I never did drugs. And I don't look at it now as drugs because obviously it's medicinal, right? I mean, it is technically, but for purposes of depression, PTSD, getting out of your own way, and it becoming legalized more and more, and it will probably be everywhere in the next 10 years. I think I was open to trying something that was a heart opener, as they call psilocybin. It's a heart opener. And I felt my heart was blocked. Really did. Even though I was giving so much to my friends and my loved ones, personally, I felt my heart was a little bit blocked. And so I said, why not? Let me just try it. I'm not like, tripping. It's like the tiniest microdose where over time, as it builds up into your system, it allows you to see a different light, different perspective on any given situation, on people. It's being more accepting of yourself and it's being more accepting of others. And maybe the way you thought things were is not how they actually are. And what if there was another way? Because if there's another way, that way can lead you into all the things that you've ever desired. I was like, okay, sign me up. So it really changed. And now it wasn't immediate. I think I've microdosed over the last 6 to 8 months, super, super slight difference. So I don't want anyone to get confused of like, oh my God, I'm going on this journey and boom, my life is going to change. It doesn't happen unless you're open to something shifting. So for me, I was ready for something to change. And I think when you're ready, then the medicine kind of comes in. And again, I'm not a medical professional, so I don't obviously tell people to do this. I think it's very important that everybody makes their own decision on what they can do. And I don't actually tell anyone they should do anything. But if you're open to trying something that might give you a little bit of a different shift and you feel okay about it, it's a great way to go. Also, if you are on any antidepressants or whatever, it will not work the same. It will just not work that the way it would if you're not. So I do say that. It changed my life. It truly opened me. And then when I got the show, I think it was all this natural progression of like, now my heart's a little bit more open. Now I could be open to love. And then I got the show.
So you think that your experience with microdosing over the last few months actually did make a meaningful difference in your life?
It made a huge difference. It wasn't the only difference. I would say it was the tool that I needed personally, because I'm a very, like I said, controlled, and I needed something to open me in ways that I could not do on my own. That was the thing. So like talk therapy, amazing. I support it. It doesn't really do anything for me because I'm a talker. I'll talk myself out of the talk therapy. And I love it as support, but for me, I needed something to allow me to see things in a different light and to open up to new scenarios. And that was not happening any other way. Now you can get there from breath work, you can get there from other modalities, but for me personally, it changed my life. Now, do I need to be on it forever? No. Do I take it here and there and then skip a month? And of course, you could do whatever you want. But I know that I'm much more open when I microdose and I see things. And by the way, such a creative, expansive light that I've never seen before. Like actually as if the possibilities are endless and as if everything I've ever thought when I was a little girl can come back true again before we got conditioned to believe that we're limited.
Wow. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah. I always say this. You don't know what you don't know. And I was curious. I also think curiosity is such a beautiful quality because you're willing to say, this isn't working for me. I need to go find something else. I want to be better. And that's where I was. Whatever was happening in my life at that moment was not working. Because another thing it does, it really makes you feel like you can do anything. That's how it makes you feel. But like naturally in the sense of it's what's already within you and it's bringing it up and out. That's the most powerful thing because it's not like it's some false sense of giving you a belief that doesn't exist. And then what happens after that, the mushrooms or something, you're like, oh, wait, back to normal. It's giving you something, an opening of what is already there and what you already know about yourself. It's as if no one has told you because somebody along the line, as we know, has told us that we can't do something. And I think when I go back to my mom, as I shared in the beginning, she always said I could do anything that I wanted, even though my other parent was opposing of that. You get to choose to believe which way you want to go. But when we get to this age or whatever age that is, 30s, 40s, whatever, 50s, you're like, it's too late. Or why should I try that? There's other things I need to do, like you said. And I put so many things by the wayside. There are days, by the way, that I had one the other day. I just have to say vulnerably, I really like hit myself on the shoulder for lack of a better, thing saying, God, why did I wait this long? By the way, you'll love this. When I taped my intro, I waited 5 years to do that because the intro is the hardest for me because I could talk like this all day, but getting like a concise little thing for 2 minutes. I remember my mentor's like, Harmonie, no one's going to care. Like they're buying into you, not the 2-minute perfect trailer that you're putting together. But because I had this mentality of who's going to listen, someone told me I'm not good enough, which was nobody, whoever said that, I didn't do it for 5 years.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you for that tip. Everybody, make sure you keep your ears and eyeballs peeled for Life with Harmonie, the podcast, and the community. It's going to be a whole platform thing. It's going to be a whole thing. So keep your ears peeled and your eyeballs peeled for this Life with Harmonie. It's coming at you.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Hey Streetwalkers, Steve here. I'm proud to announce the newest and coolest sponsor of Fascination Street Podcast, Bravago Hard Seltzer. Go bold. Grill a tomahawk steak just for you on a Tuesday. Run your sprinklers twice in a row. Wear 2 different socks to your sister's wedding. Play golf with 2 balls from the ladies' tee box. However you go bold, do it with Bravago Bold Seltzer, the newest and boldest hard seltzer out there, with flavors like Sweet Freak, Vanilla Orange Cream, Chill Out, Rainier Cherry, and Sucker Punch, Strawberry Lemon. These seltzers pack an intense flavor and 5.1% alcohol by volume, with between 110 and 120 calories each. Find a store or purchase online at drinkbravago.com. Must be 21 or older to purchase or consume. Please drink responsibly. Go bold.
Let's get back into it.
And now finally, we're going to talk about Jewish matchmaking, the new smash sensation on Netflix.
By the way, I love this is at the end of the interview. That's very clever of you.
Thank you. Because everybody needs to get to know you, and that's why they should.
And that's what they didn't show enough on the show, right?
Right. That's right. Get to know you, and then now you'll know why you give a shit to go check out her on the show. It's because now you know who she is. She's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, my wife and I watched Indian Matchmaking. It was great. And then the producers were like, hold my yarmulke. We're going to do it with the Jews. So Jewish Matchmaking on Netflix. There's 1 season currently. You were one of the cast members on this show. How did this come into your orbit? How did you become part of this show?
God was like, oh, she's microdosing. Let me just figure.
God said, hold my mushrooms.
Exactly. I just love that we got to talk about that. Yeah. I mean, I think that was part of it though, because that was actually like 6 months before. And I think I was open to the sense of it not looking the way I thought it was going to go, years and years. I mean, look, I was with many people that I thought I was going to, marry, and it was like younger. And I was like, I was never ready and I didn't know why. And I think that the journey just always led me to kind of exactly where I am now. And a friend of mine that I went to college with, his wife is a matchmaker. And I remember it was like years ago, she tried to like set me up. I don't remember when. It was probably like 5 years ago when I was in between relationships. And yeah, they were fine. And I just thought, I don't really want to work with a matchmaker. But she was really invested in me finding love, which I really appreciated. And then she actually married my friend from college who was her client. So she like kept him for herself. She randomly emailed me and she's like, listen, one of my friends is casting, like submitting actual people for this process. And I know we're not working together, but I just think this is your path. And I'm like, what do you mean this is my path? I don't even work with matchmakers, And she's like, no, I just think you should apply. And back to like the hosting and all of the Joe Rogan stuff, you know what I mean? I'm like, I actually feel this was always my path in a sense of just sort of being more open to the world, because that allowed me to open myself up. And I always say this, I feel like the true purpose of me going on the show was, I mean, yes, we all want love, but I feel I was the voice for so many women on that show.
In what way?
Which again, with the platform, it like led me to that point, which was sharing the vulnerable story of my age, thinking it should be a certain way, wanting to be in a different place than I was, thinking that it was going to go a direction 5 or 10 years ago, has, like we just talked about, time, and it didn't, but I was also never going to settle. Like that was always how I felt. I wanted to feel that it was going to be the full thing, but I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. As we just said, I don't know what that was going to look like. So I feel like when I started to become a little bit more open to adventure and things that I don't know, just were presented to me, I used to say no. And now I was saying yes. And I think that was the moment when I had my interview with this woman who wasn't the matchmaker. It was like the casting director. I was bawling in my interview. I'll never forget it. I don't think anybody knows this part. I remember she was asking me questions about my dad and my grandma at the time, because family is a big part of the show, even though they didn't get to show all of it.
Your grandma who's like 100?
But she passed last year. Oh, yeah. But she turned 100. Sorry. I know. Thank you. She turned 100. And that was sort of the wake-up call, where she always wanted me to get married, but she always told me to have fun and live my life, and it will come. Even though she was a Jewish grandma that wanted me to get married, she wasn't pushy. She just thought, I'm going to live my life and it will happen when it happens. So I got to experience my grandma at 100. We're so close. And then my dad's got really sick. He's much worse now than he was back when I shot this. I never imagined him, that's what I said on the show, not walking me down the aisle. And he legit cannot walk. And it's the time thing again. Like I let all this time go by, but yet it's not as if I would have gotten married younger. I have zero regret. Like when I tell you zero, there's no way, because I had to get to the place of the self-discovery and the journey that I was on. So when I say I was the voice for many women, it was just that, like, it's your journey. You are not like anybody else in this world. So if you're 28, 38, 40, it doesn't really matter. You're going to have it when you have it. But I think it's coming to the place where you truly want it, and also being open to what that looks like. And you've got to love yourself first. And I think a lot of people put too much pressure on finding somebody and then working on themselves. So for me, I knew I had to work on myself first. That was the whole thing. And then when Aliza, I said this on so many interviews, when she walked in, it's as if she was not my match. She wasn't my matchmaker to me, to be honest. Like, this is how I felt. She really wasn't. I actually knew that that's not how it was going to happen in some odd way. Although you probably saw my non-chemistry with the matches.
We saw what the editors wanted us to see and the producers. That's what we saw.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I do have to say they didn't really edit me, which I absolutely appreciated. Like that's exactly who I am. Everything I said is who I was and who I am now. And I think that she was like my spiritual guide.
Eliza?
Yeah. When she sat in my kitchen and I had that scene with her about talking about my family, it was as if I was talking to the casting director, the whole thing, and I just lost it because I felt like she was really like seeing into my soul, being like, I know how much you want love. I feel it all over you. And it's as if she was just going straight to you. Maybe I did mushrooms before she came in. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, it was so visceral for me that I didn't really have any spirituality and God in my life in that sector. I really didn't. So I felt that was it. It was almost like open your heart, because if this is what you really want, I think that going after it a different way and seeing things in a different light is how you're going to find it.
Got you.
Yeah.
Why did you agree to do the show? I know that you were looking for meaning, you were looking for something, maybe even a pathway to find somebody, but we all know the stigma that doing reality shows has behind it.
Yeah.
What made you say yes to doing the show? Why did you say, yeah, why not? What do I got to lose?
Well, number one, I knew it wasn't going to be like a Love is Blind. Like it was docu-series instead of reality. So the docu part was more, I get to create what I want them to see. And I think that was like a big deal, because even though I knew I could be edited, I knew that I was going to create the story of who I truly am. And it was my mission to show to other women at this age, at 45, who have all of the things, within at this moment and not the love, that you are not alone. That's really why I agreed. And this is the beauty of the journey. I'm always half in and half out when I'm in a relationship. And I don't know why. And I was so scared to go all in and show my true self, because that's our most vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And the older I got, the harder it was, because we become who we are. And when you're older, forget it. You're more set in your ways than in your 20s. You can be, molded, So I'm like, if I'm going to put it out there, I'm going to put it all out there. Obviously, you only saw snippets, but the snippets you saw were very, very powerful and very vulnerable, because never told my age to any guy when I meet them, because I feel like I look younger and I'm a youthful spirit. And when they hear that age, they get scared, because does she want to have a child? It's this pressure cooker, especially in LA, by the way, land of the freaking aging. But again, so like I lived with 4 boyfriends in my 30s.
All at the same time?
All at the same time. It was actually way better to go through all the shit that you got to go through with 4 of them. And I didn't, I got close to getting engaged, and I'm just like, this isn't it. But it was really about me. It wasn't about them. And I just wasn't ready. I just knew there was more work to do. And that's when I actually moved to LA.
I know. Remember I said we're going to bring that up later?
Oh my God, you're right.
You were like, oh, this dude wants to get married. You know what? I'll be right back. I'm going to go hang out in LA for a minute. And then 18 years later, you were like, I forgot to go back.
Oh my God, Steve, the crazy part though, when I was dating my serious boyfriend, we lived together on the Upper East Side in New York. We were together for 3 years. He knew I wanted to be a host. Get this. He's like, do you want to get like another apartment? Our lease was up. I don't know where he wanted to go, New Jersey, probably. I'm like, no. And then I said, I think I'm going to go to LA just for the summer, just to see if I can get a hosting job, And he's like, are you coming back? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm being called to go there. By the way, 2 suitcases. I went out there and I never came back.
Love it. I love that.
But anyway, in this point in my life, I knew this was full circle. Doing this show meant I had to open all the parts of me that were closed. That's exactly why I did that show.
That's a good answer. This next question I'm going to ask you, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, and I'll delete it. You have mentioned several times you're in your 40s and still looking for love, so to speak. Do you think that the reason you're still searching for, quote, the one has anything to do with you watching your parents not get along very well when you were younger?
100%. Again, you don't know how it affects your adult relationships until you're in them. And to not go too deep into detail, I saw so much from the time I was 7 till I was 17, they got divorced. So basically, my mom stayed for about 10 years. And by the way, they're still friends. And guess who's taking care of my dad right now? My mom. So to come to that moment of divorce, and now she's the one that's taking care of him, shows you who she is, number one, and why I have those values, but also that being my example. I used to think, I'm never going to be like that. I'm going to have like the Prince Charming and Cinderella marriage, but it is so deeply ingrained in you that you just build the wall and you truly, truly protect yourself from going all in on something that could hurt you. I think that's the real reason. And that is the deep-rooted moment where I thought, I've got to break through this. I've got to break the generational pattern or whatever that is of like, okay, I saw my parents. Just because my parents went through this doesn't mean that's going to happen to me. I get to choose that. But what I was saying, this is very vulnerable, what I was seeing in my 20s, not my first love, because my first love at 16 is like as no other experience you have except for your first love. But after him, in my 20s, I started to see my anger start to come out of what I witnessed as a child. And that's normal, right? I mean, it's like, you're like, let it out, let it out. This is what I held in for so long. And then in my 30s, I started to work on it a little bit, but not really. I was still in that like 30s, starting a business. I was like, who cares?
I've got plenty of time.
I got plenty of time. And then the pandemic, and then your 40s. And I'm like, I still have work to do. We work on ourselves every day. We all do. It's a never end, right? Lifelong journey, this work. However, another thing the mushrooms did, very powerful. It showed me exactly why I was not with anybody in that capacity. The moments that I witnessed as a child that led me to putting up that wall, which is miraculous. Some people don't ever get there. And what I want to do with a partner and how I want to have a partnership moving forward. And I even wrote a list of not what I want in a partner, because we've all done those lists, but what I want a partnership to look like, which I've never done before. What I can give, what they can give, but how we are going to be together. And that was very powerful. It definitely held me back this whole time, but I didn't really know why. And again, you don't know what you don't know. You have to be willing to go into this kind of work and the deep-rooted stuff in order to get to the other side. And if you don't, then that's also your choice, because a lot of people don't want to go there. I needed to go there. And I really think I got the show because that was the first opening of the whole next chapter of my life.
Wow.
And you're going to make me cry because you just brought me back full circle. I don't think I've told anybody that.
Again, I'm neat.
You're neat.
Again, the show is it's on Netflix. It's a Netflix original. It's called Jewish Matchmaking. If there was one thing you could change about, not necessarily how you were portrayed, but about your experience on the show, what would it be?
I think I wanted more of who I was in my everyday to be shown, all of the facets, like what I do, starting the podcast. There was no real background information into our lives. There was a scene shot with my friends and I was teaching the workout and they were all there. And we were talking about, what we always do, like when I'm with my friends, like we were talking about, love after a workout. And I just don't think there was enough shown about the lifestyle. And I think that's very important to who I am as a being, not just seeing like, okay, here's the passion, here's the mushrooms, which again, I love that they put, because really that is a part of who I am, but they didn't show any background as to what I do and who I am as a friend, who I am as a human being, and how I really, go and play in the world. So I think that's the only part though. And also better matches. I could have gotten better. Sorry, Eliza. She knows I love her, but attraction would have been nice.
Sure. I don't want to speak for Eliza because who could do that? But
she's amazing.
I have a suspicion that She wasn't given full range. She was given a book of people chosen who were approved by the producers.
Right.
So she had a limited range. This is just my suspicions.
And some of them probably didn't pass the background checks.
Yes, that's what I'm going to guess in things. Has being on the show changed your life in any measurable way?
Immensely. Not in like a famous way at all, even though I love when I get recognized. It's so much fun.
Do you get recognized walking down the street?
All the time. And it's funny because they all say the same thing. It's just like, you are so inspiring. Even the 20-year-olds, I'm like, okay, how old are you? You know, they're like, oh my God, you inspired us to be confident as we move through life. And these compliments are my favorite compliments in the whole time, because it is evidence that what I'm about to do is exactly the right path for me. And I believe, again, that show and the validation, and I say validation in a different way, not an ego way, the validation from the audience and what they said of how powerful they felt connected to my story and who I am in such a small window allowed me to believe even further that I was on the right path. So that changed my life immensely. The impact of the comments. And by the way, I was expecting some negative comments. You know, they train you like, how do you deal with the negativity of people saying hate messages?
They train you for this?
Oh, yeah. It's like a media training, because they don't want you to fall off the rails. Obviously, if somebody says something that's not true, who cares? Everyone's going to talk. The bigger you are, obviously, the more they talk. So luckily, this wasn't like huge, but big enough where I was preparing myself. And I'm okay with it. But I have to tell you, I think 99% of the comments were positive. I don't even remember the 1% that was not.
Harmonie, this is going to sound like a bizarre question for everybody listening, but hopefully it won't sound weird to you. How's your throat chakra doing these days?
I don't talk about my throat chakra feels good, but yet I still feel like it's blocked. Do people know what that means?
Nobody does. You have to explain all of that and why I asked.
Okay, so there are 7 chakras, and I felt like I was doing really well with the throat chakra, because that is where you're speaking from, right? And like all the knowledge and all the information comes from. But that was the one that they told me was blocked the most. And it was because I was holding in all of this beautiful knowledge. This is before the show, that I wanted to get up and out. And I was just holding it. You know, when you have something to say to somebody, or you have to have a difficult conversation, and it's kind of here, and you're like, your heart is palpitating because you're like, I just need to get it out. I need to get it out, but I don't know how. So it just sits here and it builds and it builds. Well, that's how I felt with everything I wanted to share with the world. I was almost dimming my light, and it just kind of sat there. And I kid you not, 2 different energy workers were like, your throat chakra is blocked. I'm like, I promise you, I could talk till the ends of the earth. It is not that. And they were like, that's exactly what it is, because you are not using your voice to serve out into that world and utilize the gift in the way that you should. You are sitting on it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's that. And I think it was those little moments though, that led me to be so public in the way of what we talked about from the beginning, full circle, like live your gift. And I was not. I was like so scared that no one was going to listen, and that's why, by the way, I was having breath work problems. Like I wasn't breathing from the diaphragm like I taught everybody to do. I was breathing short breaths from the throat. So it wasn't coming from the body. It was coming from here. You want to know why? Because I was holding all the knowledge here, and I needed pockets of air because I wasn't speaking. So your truth, speak your truth. It's the most powerful tool in the entire world, and it will set you free, and it will allow you to surrender every single day when you speak your truth.
Nice. Excellent words to go out on. Harmonie Krieger. Oh my gosh. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and your hectic chakra unblocking schedule to hang out and let's get to know you a little bit better on Fascination Street. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Steve. This was a beautiful podcast, and I really appreciate all the hard work that you put in and your thirst for knowledge and people and connection. And now, hopefully, I could be your 61st friend.
That sounds awesome. Everybody, make sure you keep your eyes and ears peeled for Life with Harmony. It's going to be a podcast and a platform. It's going to be a way of life. And again, go check out Harmony on the Netflix TV show, Jewish Matchmaking. It's a lot of fun, I promise. There's so many characters.
I know.
And Harmony is definitely one of them. Before I let you go, Harmony, is there anything we didn't talk about or I didn't ask you about that you wanted to talk about today?
There might be a season 2 coming up. We'll see. We don't know yet. Hopefully everyone be rooting, or you can apply because I'm sure there'll be new cast members on it. But no, thank you so much. And yeah, the podcast will be out in August. Don't have the date, but I hope everybody kind of comes along for the ride. And I just hope everybody finds their own inner peace and harmony. And if I can help in any way possible, I'm always open for comments and direct messages and things that you might need help on, because Lord knows we need it. And we got to stick together and we got to share all the things that help, make us better. Like this podcast.
Oh, you're so sweet. Harmony, thank you so much. And you have a great rest of your week.
You too. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Harmony.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Opening music is the song FSP Theme, written, performed, and provided by Ambush Vin.
Closing music is from the song Say My Name off the 2021 album Underdog Anthems, used with permission from Jax Hollow. If you like the show, tell a friend. Subscribe and rate and review the show on iTunes and wherever else you download podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. All the episodes are available there as well. Check me out on Vero at Fascination Street Pod and TikTok at Fascination Street Pod. And again, thanks for listening.